Excellent. Welcome, everyone, and welcome to today's Skill Booster on No More Meetings That Suck. It's a workshop we're running quite a bit at the moment with the team at Think Productive Australia. It's obviously an area of great interest to a lot of people, and there are some things that we can do. I'm going to share 5 key tips and techniques with you today, and we'll answer any questions you have. This is a Skill Booster for those of you that haven't joined us. It's a very quick, short session that will get you out and get you into your day very quickly within that 30-minute time zone. So a little bit about myself. I am a productivity ninja. My name is Gavin. I'm based in Sydney, but do travel to different parts of the world running these great workshops. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or get in touch through any of those means. And you're probably already following us if you joined the Skill Booster, but if not, we have great socials that give you a bit of a smile and motivation regularly. Our team does a great job with those. So great to be here. For those of you that might be new to us, that may not know much about us, just a very quick overview of who Think Productive are in Australia. We are a global company, and we operate in this way. We try and do things thinking about how we do our work and what we can change, what we can control to make things even more effective. We practice what we preach, so everything we're talking about here today is things that we operate in our own meetings and are very passionate about, and we're certainly not perfect. But that's us, and great to connect with all of those that have been to one of our workshops before. Thank you for joining us again today. So what we'll cover in this session is 5 things. So firstly, what is the problem with meetings? Why do we have a problem with meetings? We love socializing as social animals. We love connecting with people. It's really important in these COVID times to connect. So why are we having problems with meetings? Shouldn't they be fun? Shouldn't they be great ways to connect with each other? No, as we know, they're not. So what is the problem we'll talk about? And I'm going to introduce you, if you haven't seen this before, on the yin and yang of meetings. And really interesting as to how do we balance both, and we'll talk a little bit about that. We will give one of our best tips, which is if there's no agenda, or there's even something easier to do than an agenda, is should there be a meeting? Should you attend the meeting? And as a person holding a meeting, if you're responsible for that, a very, very important practice to get into. And then a rule that is a great number to remember is 40, 20, 40. What does that mean? We'll talk a little bit about that. And then a really practical 4 Ps model so that we can think about with every meeting that we're certainly organising and even attending, as to checking that those 4 Ps are in place and ticking them off the list. So this content is from our Fixing Meetings workshops that, as I say, we're running quite a few at the moment, but we're just giving you a quick snapshot today. All right, so why are meetings broken? And by the way, feel free to comment in the chat. Ninja Matt is monitoring the chat, and we'll jump in if there's any questions that need to be answered when I pause between some of this content. So feel free to type in comments or certainly questions into the chat. Why are meetings broken? Here are some of the problems that we're seeing with meetings that are possibly getting worse now with COVID and with hybrid. There's a lot of organisations now operating in a hybrid model, and that's here to stay, and some great work being done across Australia with that hybrid working model. But it's still causing problems. There's still too many. As we work from home, which I am today, where we really have to set our own boundaries. It's very difficult. It's something that you have to keep monitoring. And meetings can slip into the calendar quite a lot. We don't know why we're here. That's a big one. I hear every day someone saying, I just have been invited to this meeting. I'm not really sure what the meeting's about. But particularly if someone may be more senior than you in a larger organisation, or someone you don't know very well, it's not comfortable to actually challenge, why have you invited me to the meeting? But let's face it, we'd love to be invited to join things. So we don't know why we're here. We also don't know how we're going to get the work done in between all these meetings. We've got, as I say, back-to-backs, or we just have a body of work we're trying to get through, and we have meetings that can interrupt us when we're trying to get that key work done that we talk a lot about in our workshops, and getting in that zone to do the work. And then the most frustrating thing, if you're in a meeting, whether it be video or in person, are people actually paying attention? If you're running the meeting, are people really engaging with you? Are they listening but not contributing? Are you listening but not contributing? That can be a real problem, obviously, because why are we meeting is the question we have to answer. We're so busy attending meetings, we actually don't stop to think about them. Hitting that accept button is automatic to a lot of us, and it is something we've been doing for years. So we really probably automatically accept the meetings and our diary gets full, and it doesn't have to be that way. We typically are following the leader here, and particularly in organisations or anyone we're working with, there's meetings happening left, right and centre. So everyone is doing it. It's a status quo, and that's what we want to break today. In the Skill Booster is some ways where you can actually think about the status quo and do things a bit differently. So we're going to have a bit of fun with that during this workshop. I mentioned the yin and the yang, and this is a really interesting thing to remember because I think we all have preferences. My preference, I'm a facilitator, so I love the sensitivity, the inside. I love listening to people, interacting, reflecting, and really understanding where people are coming from. But that can come at the expense, if I'm not aware and not focused on it, of the yang, which is, what is the meeting for? We're trying to get some work done here. We want to be focused. We want to get people out, hopefully in way less than an hour. It certainly doesn't need to be an hour, does it? And have some deliberate ignorance, maybe just some things that we don't need to cover or things we don't need to know about in that meeting. We don't need to cover everything, just what is on the agenda. And I'll get to that later. We need to make sure there's some planning, there's some action, there's some follow-up, and the focus is on what are we doing after the meeting. So you might be more a yang structured person, and then possibly it comes at the expense of the yin. And I attend meetings like this, and I'm very, very sensitive to this, of course, being more the yin person, but I'll notice some people might start a meeting and they're straight into the content. There's been no connection, and that's increasingly important as we're feeling a little, I guess, isolated as we're all not in the office as much and not interacting with people. So just to call out to watch the yin side of things and do that listening, do that connecting. It might only take a minute and just find out where people are at before you get into the deep work. Maybe reflect and certainly focus on the now, focus on the past and present focus as well as the future. So hopefully that model is something that you can keep an eye on, and these slides will be distributed with this recording later. Balancing that yin and the yang. The next concept we want to talk about in this very quick skill booster is, if there is no agenda, really should we attend? And if you're holding a meeting, having that agenda, having that purpose statement, and the word purpose is something I want to stress here because I find it much easier to write a purpose statement than probably putting together a full agenda. And often you don't need to. Is there a purpose to the meeting? It's generally a sentence. By the end of the meeting, you will achieve something. And having that in each meeting is absolutely critical, and something we talk about amongst ourselves is if there is no agenda or certainly no purpose statement, should you be at that meeting? Why are you at the meeting? And maybe you can just ask the question respectfully of the meeting organizer as to, well, I'm not really sure if I can contribute. Can you let me know what my role is in this meeting or what you'd like to get out from me? And maybe you can send something. There's other ways to communicate, as we talk about in some of our communications workshops. So making your acceptance to a meeting conditional on the organizer respecting your time and everyone else's is really important, and having that purpose statement. So a bit of a challenge: no agenda, no attendance. Leading on from that, is the meeting valuable to me? Are you going to give or get something valuable from attending this meeting? If not, can you delegate? Can you actually pass it to someone else? There seems to be a great opportunity in many instances, small or large, for you to say, well, if, I'll use Matt and I and Julie that we work together, do we all need to be on this webinar? Do we all need to be on this meeting? Yeah, really, it could take one of us. You can literally divide and conquer and cut your time down enormously by delegating to someone else and catching up with them later, if in fact the content was relevant to you. Or can you do a bit of a pop-in guest appearance? We love this. So I can't make the full hour of the meeting, Julie, but I can actually pop in and do my bit, if that's okay, 10 minutes in, 20 minutes in, I'll come in at the start and then I'll drop off. That can literally halve your time or more by just having that guest appearance. So another good tip that if you're not doing that already might be something you could try. Meetings do go stale. I remember a lot of the weekly stand-ups or the weekly review meetings, and there's nothing to update. I hear this continually from clients that there's a lunchtime briefing, but for the last 2 weeks it hasn't changed. So the meeting may have gone stale and no one's called that out. So meetings can be adjusted. It doesn't mean it's got to be a standing meeting forever, right? So maybe as a meeting organizer, you could do things like pause the meeting, certainly shorten it, change the attendees, or in fact delete it for a week or two and see if anyone notices or misses that meeting. So whether you're a meeting organizer or a meeting attendee, think about style meetings and obviously mixing them up, and hopefully this skill booster can give you some ideas just to even make some small tweaks, thinking about the yin and the yang and thinking about everything else we've talked about so far. So as you know, our workshops are about doing and making some change for you. They're all about you. So I have a challenge here that I would like to give you 60 seconds to do one of 4 things. So the challenge is try and see if you can actually give yourself back some time. We'd like to aim for even 3 hours for the next month or the next couple of weeks. But if you can go through your diary, I'm going to give you 60 seconds and I'll pause the recording to do one of 4 things. Look at your diary now and either cancel a meeting you're chairing that doesn't need to be held, decline a meeting you're attending that you really think you may not need to be there, uninvite someone that's in a meeting that you're chairing that isn't necessary to that meeting and you can give them back time, or the easiest one, shorten a meeting from the classic 60 seconds rather, sorry, 60 minutes to 30 minutes, or in fact, 15. I love 45-minute meetings. Even getting it down from 60 to 45 is a way to save yourself 15 minutes on a number of meetings. So I'm going to put on my clock for 60 seconds now and pause. And again, if you have any questions or comments, let us know through the chat. Otherwise, I will see you in 1 minute. Great. Thank you, Wendy. Removing recurrences from style meetings and shortening them. Love it. Rachel, deleting one completely. Well done. It's a great exercise to do, and you can have a bit of fun with that and certainly help yourself and colleagues by doing that exercise. Great. We're doing fantastic. Let's move on to the next concept. Thank you all for your comments. Decline to, shorten to. Great. All right, so the next concept, this is a bit of content here, and we obviously run workshops around this content quite regularly. So I'm going to summarize what we do here, and obviously feel free to reach out to us if we can help more on this subject or others around meetings. So this rule is the 40-20-40 rule, which is an interesting one. We often get asked, does that mean for an hour's meeting, I've got to spend 2 hours preparing and 2 hours after the meeting? No, it's just to give you an idea and a reminder that it's actually more important to do the preparation for the meeting and the follow-up than the meeting itself. So it's about the energy, it's about the focus, it's about what can we do to make sure that the outcome of having a meeting is really effective. And just to credit the source here, it's from a book called Meeting Together. So 40-20-40, we could talk about that all day, but I just want to put that out there as a challenge if you're not preparing for your agenda. And I'm going to go through some concepts now with the 4 Ps that can really help you with this, and certainly putting time to follow up. And it doesn't have to be you as a meeting organizer, of course. That's the beauty. We can delegate the follow-up to someone else, but making sure you're checking in and that type of thing with them. So key concept, and the next key concept that we'd like to share with you today is the 4 Ps. So this is a very, very powerful model of what we can do to make our meetings as effective as possible and the good meeting design. So I'm going to spend a few minutes on this. The first one is the purpose. So I talked about a purpose statement and no agenda equals no meeting. So what is the purpose for this meeting? Thinking about that, probably giving that a good minute or two at least consideration before you send the invite, and maybe then you'll adjust who do you want there and what really are you covering and how long is the meeting to get that purpose. It could be a 10-15 minute meeting, right? What is the plan for the meeting? Is it going to be a video? Are we going to have a full agenda? Are we going to invite people to attend? Is there some people, which we do regularly with our clients, is just saying, can you just attend for the first 10 minutes to give your overview, that type of thing. So what is the plan for the meeting? Have a plan and putting that down, certainly for yourself and whatever you can share in that agenda. Now, the protocol is really interesting, especially with video and use of, obviously Teams and Zoom and the like. And how do we make sure that the meeting is going to run as effectively as possible? Thinking about the people that are attending, thinking about what we want to achieve, and certainly thinking about the length of the meeting. So you might want a break. If we have any session for more than half an hour or certainly an hour, we try and put in even a stretch break. So what can we do with the camera fatigue? Can we say, love your cameras on for the exercises, but you really don't need them on for the rest of it if you want to just be looking at your notes or not having to think about how you're appearing on camera, for instance, giving people a rest from that constant camera that we're looking into. What contributions do we want from people? Do we expect microphones on? Do we want to use chat? Do we want to use any other sharing mechanism? We're doing a lot on Miro boards at the moment to try and simulate doing flip charting, of course, and people working together in a room. Are we using some type of collaborative tool? So thinking about the protocol of the meeting, and again, there's a fair bit of content behind this, but and reach out to us if you've got questions, as I said. And last but not least, once you've done the purpose, the plan of the meeting, the protocol of how it's going to run, then you can probably think more about, well, who really needs to be here? Maybe there's more people that you haven't thought about, but quite often you might want to rationalize, do we need everyone on all the teams to attend the meeting? Do we just maybe need a representative? What is the right number to get the collaboration going? Because really, do we want people coming to the meeting that are not going to have a role and are not going to be part of that collaboration, which is why we're meeting? So I think you'll find the 4 Ps can be a great reminder, and hopefully that's something that's helped a little this morning. So again, we're summarising these skill boosters, but let's move on. So this is what we've covered so far this morning. The problem with meetings is that they're not going away. They're certainly not getting easier or more efficient. In fact, there's probably more meetings is what we're finding as we need to connect remotely. The yin and the yang really need to be balanced for all of us in our meetings, and just as a reminder, as we're attending a meeting or certainly running that meeting. Having no agenda is a great way of saying, well, really, should this be a meeting? As a courtesy to everyone attending the meeting, having that purpose statement is very key. The 40-20-40 rule, really putting more attention into what are we doing before the meeting? How can we prepare for that time we have together that's very valuable? And then what can we do to make sure that afterwards it's going to actually get the result we want for that meeting? And if we go through the 40-20-40 and find it's possibly not panning out the way we want, maybe we challenge, should this be a meeting, or are we disseminating information? And the 4 Ps, having a purpose, having a plan for the meeting, getting the right protocol and communicating that to the people in the meeting, either before or at the start of the meeting, and making sure the right people are there. So we've covered a fair bit in 20 minutes, and I want to now just share with you some of the things that we're hearing from our client base at the moment. That's the main focuses that we're looking at the moment, which obviously hybrid teams is a really big one. How do you lead a hybrid team? What do you do differently? How can you think about that? How can you be a productivity ninja? Obviously, everyone gets different things out of these programs that cover all of the 9 ninja characteristics. Fixing meetings is a workshop we run with obviously much more time than we've spent this morning. Delegation is a workshop in itself. That's one of our relatively new ones that's quite interesting. because we probably don't get taught to delegate when we're starting out in the business world. Getting your inbox to zero. Inbox, obviously, emails are not decreasing, and managing that continues to be a source of stress and frustration. And the guide to hybrid workings for everyone in organisations that are in a hybrid model, how can we work differently? How can we rebuild? How can we reimagine our future? And thank you, Matt. Matt's just posted our website where you can see more about this. Now, I've got some exciting news to share. One of the programs that you may not be aware of that we've been introduced now, I think about a year ago, we started this, and it's been really popular. It's an individual program that people attend called 6 Weeks to Ninja. And so anyone can attend, and it's a really great way to have some continuity over that 6-week period where you join us and you come in, and thank you, the link's in the chat. And you're working with a small group of others, and there's some great way to get a little deeper into the content than what you might do by reading the ebook in the Productivity Ninja Academy. So if you would like to join, early bird is now available, and that starts on the 17th of August, the next cohort. So we'd love to have you along to that. And the link is in the chat. Now, what we're going to do is to thank you for joining us this morning. We've had a great turnout and really appreciate you taking the time. We've got a little draw here for a book, a little surprise giveaway. So we've got 3 copies of Work Fuel. So what we would like you to do, you can do this after the call, but email us on hello@thinkproductive.com.au. No rush, because we're going to draw the subject line Work Fuel, yes please. We're going to draw at midday today. We're going to pick 3 from all you lovely people that have joined us this morning. And thank you, Matt's put that information in the chat again. So that's me. Thank you very much for joining us in the interest of better meetings and making meetings really powerful and valuing your time. We like to finish these sessions a little earlier than the 30 minutes, but as always, I'm going to stay on if anyone has any questions. I think we've got Matt and Ninja Julie, so you've got 3 of us on this call today. We're all happy to answer any questions on the content we've shared or any other questions you might have. But thank you for calling in and listening in from all parts of Australia, and really appreciate your time, and have a great productive day. I'm going to stop the recording now, and I'm going to hang around if anyone has any more questions.